Good morning. This is Ron Brown. It's Saturday morning, February 17th, 2024. I'm going to do some market analysis and I may look at some other things too. I'm going to be using HGS Investor, of course. It and Thinkorswim are my primary and only day-to-day software programs. I do use some other programs occasionally like EdgeRater and so on, but primarily I rely upon HGS Investor and Thinkorswim. Always remember the market is your teacher. This is my abbreviated version of the standard risk disclaimer. Any stock index or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. And if you're not using the software, you should be. Just go to highgrowthstock.com and you'll see the link there where you can try the software for 30 days. And the best part of that is no credit card is required. If you do sign up for it, make sure you install the program, look at some of my videos and start using it just to appreciate how powerful it is. Okay, I've got my screen layout here. This is how I lay out my 32-inch monitor. I have the warehouse view down here, and then I have a weekly chart and a daily chart, and then over here I usually have the designer. The designer is the data repository, and it also is where the smart groups and user smart groups are, and I may get into some of that a little bit in this video, but primarily I want to concentrate on some other things. I'm going to take this up to the top so it takes the whole screen. I want to point out that I have added an index. I did this last Friday. Notice it's dated February 24th, 09. That was closed last Friday when the market was closing so strong. And there were 277 stocks in this leaders index. And I just took the leaders from my leaders scan, which you will find if you go down here under my name and go down to the market leaders, number 12. And I'm not in all securities, so it's not showing anything. Let me go to all securities, alternate space bar, and then I'll reapply the filter, and you can see that there are 278 securities in here this week. These are stocks that are no more than 5% down from their 52-week high. What I'm doing is I'm sticking with the index that I created last week because those stocks in there, if they start to break down, we'll see that the leadership from that week is breaking down. It was a strong week, so that's why I'm using that date. Okay, I'm going to go back to my Major Markets Plus folder, and then I'll get up here in the top-down views. And I'm sorted on raw combo. This is the percentage price change one day. Notice that there are a couple of Bitcoin. There's a Bitcoin trust on top, and then the pro shares. Bitcoin was really strong this week. You can see up 7.6 and 7.7%. And then as far as the indexes go, some of them were positive for the week. The Dow Jones Utility, Small Cap 600, this Leaders Index, the Russell 2000, and so on. So we're seeing strength in the small cap stocks now, both in the 600 and the Russell 2000. I'm using the ETF, the IWM. And if I click on the ranking module, let's see what I have this set up on. It's percent price change number of weeks, and it'll show you pretty much the same thing here where the strength and weakness was. You can see the NASDAQ 100 was down 1.53 for the week. But let's get back to this, and I want to talk a little bit about this index. So I'll bring I'll bring the index up move this down so you can see what it looks like on the weekly and the daily chart. And you can see that it's still riding above the 3 and the 6. So even though some of the leaders were weak yesterday, the index itself of these stocks is very strong. Now I'm going to change this view here. I'm going to click on, I'm up here in the top down process views for index and ETF analysis, but I'm going to go down here to the HGSI index analysis. And I'm going to click on the percentage price change. I moved down here because I've got a column in here which shows how many securities are in this index. And you can see it's 277. If I change to that index group, it goes to the stocks that are contained in here. And then I wanted to bring this back up. I can go down here where it says end of day, the top down percentage price change up and down. I can immediately look at the index and see out of those 278 securities that yesterday 95 were up and 180 were down. So we saw some deterioration in the leaders group. Let's go to the upside and click on the spectrum analyzer, and I'm going to look at major industries first, and you can see that the biotech and pharma group was up, oil and gas, software, electrical equipment. Now let's go to the downside, and you can see software, big number in software. There's always biotech and pharma, there's always a big number, but media was down, semiconductors were down, and so on. So you can get a quick read and a visual on this by looking either at the industry or major industry, or you can go to the sectors if you want to broaden it out. And the technology sector was definitely the weaker group. I'm going to go to the positive side now, and you can see that healthcare, which includes the biotech, was the largest group. There's plenty of technology up. I mean, the market isn't totally breaking down, but the numbers tell us that it was 95 to 180. So 2 to 1 to the downside on the leaders index. Now let's go back. And I'll go back up to my original top-down analysis group so we can look at what these indexes did yesterday. Of course, the NASDAQ 100, the primarily made up of tech components, and the QQQ, same thing, down 0.9%. But as I go back up here to this leaders index and bring it up, move this out of the way. It's strong yet. Look at all this buying in here on this leaders index until, let's see, that would be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then we're finally getting a red bar here. If this bar, if the 3 goes down through the 6 on this bar, I would say this leaders group the run is over, at least temporarily. You can see that happened right here. It pulled back. There were some heavy selling days. You can, based upon this red bar here, and then it went back up. Now the chart I'm looking at here is in my HGSI index charts, buy sell number 6. And the reason I did this is because this gives me buy and sell signals based upon advancing issues versus declining issues, and advancing volume versus declining volume. Now on this day right here, notice that it dipped down, but it closed positive rather than a negative close, or a green bar, in other words. And on those days, it was, for this index only, it was a 5 to 1 down day at least, because this is a solid red bar, and a 5 to 1 down day at least because it's a solid red bar on the decliners versus advancers. If it's between 3 to 1 and 5 to 1, it's a rose colored rather than red. And then here the force index turned negative, but the force 2-day turned negative, force 13 stayed positive, and the VPOC stayed positive too. So not a sell signal. These are just indicators that tell you what's going on, but I am primarily, in addition to these, I should say, I'm looking at the 3-6 crossovers and the volume point of control, plus these volume spikes down here, which tell us the severity of the selling. Now this back here indicated that it was a sell, but it found support at the 18 and then turned around and it changed to a buy on this effort to rise day. So this is experimental, but it's just this is something that we used to use back at the Palos Verdes seminars, looking for a change in the market when the market was beginning to roll over. We'd look at the leaders. If the leaders start breaking down, then the market's generally in trouble. Now, I really don't see a lot of trouble in the market yet, to tell you the truth. I know for Friday, some of the leaders really got hit, but let's go to the here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to just drop down to the broad market indices. These are all indexes created by HGSI, and this is one of the real strengths of the program. You can create your own indexes. Now, I'm going to sort on this, which is the percentage price change, and it tells me, of course, what the percentage price changes are. Now, one thing I do want to tell you that I've made a change. I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to go under preferences. For years, I have been using market cap weighting to give more preference to the larger cap stocks, but there's such a narrow group of stocks that are leaders that I think they were skewing the index too much. So I have gone back to equal dollar weighting, and I'm using 104 weeks or 2 years because I like to see at least 2 years on a index. So this is what I'm using now. So if you want yours to look like mine, just make sure you select equal dollar weighting, relative start date of 104, and use the default internal filter. So the indexes, the stocks have to be at least $5 to be included in the index. I'm going to cancel this. And I brought the weekly chart back up, and now I'm going to take a broad look at the market using the S&P 1500 stocks. By the way, the component indexes were updated last week. They seem to change constantly, but they're current as of last week. So what do we have here? We have the S&P 1500 index. I'm going to just start right here, and you can see that the A and E crossover is still positive. In other words, it hasn't broken down yet. It turned down just a little bit. Here's the A and B compared to the C. This just shows the rotation. You can see there's not a lot of rotation yet. Accumulation is still on A. Chaikin is still heavily positive, and the heavy green bars as of Thursday showed that there is still strong accumulation. This is the advanced decline line with the 30-period simple moving average, and you can see that the AD line is still above the moving average. This is a percentage of stocks above their 20, 30, 50, and 200-day moving averages. Yes, they've turned down some. It's not as strong as back here. See how much higher they were? I'll put a cross there on so you can see that. Up in this area, when the market was really moving up, the percentage was higher, so there is some deterioration on all of these, but it's not critical yet. This is the potential buy-sell signals on the S&P 1500, and you can see just the 2-day force went negative, nothing else. It's the same thing. This one has my fan, the 200, the 100, the 50, and the 18, and the 3 and the 6. This is the same thing without the fan for a cleaner look. And then here's just a AD line. Just wanted to use larger windows on that. And then this one right here, number 8, it shows you the internals. Now, yesterday was a weak day, no doubt about it. 1091 down, 393 up, minus 698. Now remember, this doesn't index stocks below $5, so these numbers don't add up to 1,500. But there are over 1,500 in there now, slightly over. And then let's look at the other charts. Force index 2 went negative, but the force index 13 is still positive. McClellan oscillator, zoom out on this one so we can compare. Still strong up near the upper end. It did turn down yesterday. This is the summation index. It's going higher. And then finally, this is just a chart I don't use much, but it shows accumulation when there's a lot of accumulation distribution. When there's a lot of green bars in here pretty close together, it shows strong accumulation. Conversely, when it's going down, this area is going to be red, and this area here, it goes from green to yellow to red. These bars here show you when the distribution is starting, but you can see that on the chart too. So anyway, I'm not real pessimistic about the market yet, but I realize that it could break at any time. Now, speaking of breaking, I'm going to go to all securities, and I'm going to see, even though this is a Saturday, if you update the intraday, I'm going to go to the I don't want the charts, I want the warehouse view. I'm going to go down here to I'm just going to go to the money flow in and money flow out. End of day scans. And these stocks have weekly options. These are some of the most actively traded stocks. So here's the end of day version, and look over here, you'll see that Roku, Super Microcomputers, Sabre, Adobe, Lyft, these are the stocks that were hit yesterday. And I need to get into a different chart here, my daily analysis, and I need to zoom in on that. So you can see what happened with Roku yesterday. I don't know when earnings came out, but it took a 23.8% beating on one day. Look at Super Microcomputer. Talk about a climax run and a reversal. It was trading up $100 pre-market. Let me zoom in on this. And this is where it ended up. I was watching and there were a lot of one-lot trades in here, people buying a single share of it. And anyway, a lot of money reversed hands yesterday, and it closed, where'd it close? 0.78% of its daily range. So some of the big name stocks are breaking down. Look at Adobe here. Big move down. Sabre Corporation. Lyft. This, the prior 2 days, huge move up. Twilio, is that how you pronounce it? I'm not sure. But anyway, you can see the money flow out on these stocks that trade weekly options. This is where the action is. Let's look at the other side, the money flow in. And you can see this is Albertsons setting up nicely. there were not a lot of big numbers on the percentage price change on this. Here's a big number on Mullen Automotive, but it's not an expensive stock. These also have the weekly options, so there's a lot of activity here. But let's look at the percentage price change. Nothing like on the downside. So that's kind of a warning that it is a warning when money leaves, it leaves in a hurry. I got on the wrong one there. I'm sorry. Let's start over here. Sometimes this is money flow in, end of day scans. All right, I'm fine. So money was flowing in on these. I'm sorted on percentage price change. Money flowing out here. And you can see that this is where the big hits were. So you have to really be careful when you're chasing, if you're chasing these stocks that everybody's in, because eventually it's just too tempting for the big money. They just take their profits when everybody else, or the shorts are getting squeezed. When those who didn't get in don't want to mess out anymore, they jump in and then they get hammered. Anyway, let's do one more thing. I'm not going to make this a very long video, but I do want to go back to my HGSI market indexes and go back up to the HGSI indexes percentage price down and go into that leaders index, change to the index group, and move this out of the way. So I'm here. I know I'm moving quickly, but I want to get this done. I'm right here, top down percentage price change 1 day, and the end of day up and down. When I've sorted on raw combo, this is the industries down, but if I sort on the percentage price change down, these are the leaders that are in this leaders folder, and you can see that Dropbox had a huge, it's no longer a leader obviously. Super microcomputer, let's go down here and look at the context. The 3 has not crossed the 6 yet, but this may be hard to recover from. We'll see if buyers come into it on Tuesday. Still in an uptrend. You can see that right here. But with that kind of volatility, I'll just be watching it to see what happens. But you can see that several stocks in this leaders group. Well, here's DoorDash. Yeah, it's down, but look at this. Buyers came in. This is bullish, actually. Adobe Systems is in the group. It's not bullish. Whatever this is, Fomento Mexico. JFrog, this stock is strong, gap up. This could hold the gap, even though it's a down day. Notice how the volume dropped off from the up volume day. So this is one I'd be watching on Monday. Even though it's down. Now you can, here's a little trick to look at the range, like DoorDash. This tells you immediately that even though it was down, it closed near the high of the day, so that's bullish. Let's look down this percentage range. I'll just sort on it so we can, okay, Fresh Pit. Same thing, down for the day, but bullish. Always look at the range. Here's DoorDash again. Simba, that's a buyout. Empire Realty Trust. So these stocks, even though they're down, they ended up with somewhat of a bullish flag. Okay, that's all I'm going to do on the market analysis. I may come out with a different video over the weekend. I'm working on some things on prospecting. I don't want to share that with you, but I don't want this to be a long video. So I just don't. I don't think the market's breaking down yet, but just because that's my opinion doesn't mean it won't. But watch those stocks in this leaders group and see what the leaders index does in the future. And like I said, you can change to the index group. If you're down here under HGSI top down prospecting, you can go down to number 7 to see the stocks that were up compared to the stocks that were down. And it was a 2-to-1 down day yesterday. Whoops. Sorry about that. 95 down, 180 up. So you can get a feel for the strength of the leaders just by clicking on these two right here and then looking at the chart, of course. Thank you for listening. Have a good 3-day weekend.